Hey friends, I'm Jamie Maddox, your wealth embodiment mentor. I teach how you are uniquely designed to attract wealth. In this podcast, I talk about body mapping and money. Body mapping is a unique map on your body that gives information, instructions, and direction for you specifically. Each episode, I highlight one area of the body, discuss its features, and more importantly, what that means for you and your money. So welcome. I'm excited to be on this journey together and can't wait to see what your body can teach you about money. Hello, I am so glad you are here for the second part about hair. Okay, this is going to be so good. So we're going to just jump right in. Okay, one thing that I didn't mention last week, and I was like, oh, it doesn't matter, like whatever, but it keeps coming to mind. So I'm going to share it because that's how it works, right? Okay, with curly hair, and this is how it works for me. I would be really curious to know, especially for those of you that have curly hair. So please let me know if this is the same for you, because I'm kind of doing like a little experiment with this, okay? But the more I process my emotions and feel my emotions, the curlier my hair is. Okay, so now let me explain. It doesn't mean that necessarily like my hair like gets more like tighter curls. But if my curls are struggling to bounce and to have body, it is my indication that I have something that needs to be processed. Okay, and this is just an awareness over time that I suddenly, because okay, let's be real. When you have curly hair, there's kind of a joke that it's just like, well, it just does what it wants and you just roll with it. And you're just not quite sure if it's going to be like a great curly hair day or like a not great curly hair day, okay? Which is totally normal. But I started to notice this pattern where I was like, why does my hair just still seem kind of dead? And then I would process some big emotions and all of a sudden my curls would be like so bouncy and so happy. And I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, so let me know if you have curly hair, have you noticed this or is this just a me thing? But again, it makes sense because our hair holds memories and emotions, right? So I'm like, oh, the more I process my emotions, actually, the more my curly hair works with me, not against me. Okay, so there's my little side note, my little addendum from last week. Okay, so hair is also a filter and a protector. So here's the thing. I mean, we've been talking most specifically about hair on our head, right? But we have hair all over our body. Now, some of you are like, yeah, I have way too much hair all over my body, which, can be frustrating, right? Especially if you're female. That's not really like, quote unquote, the norm as far as socially acceptable. Let me say it that way, okay? Quote unquote, because exactly how you are is exactly perfect. Okay, but I hope this gives you some context. When you have hair, or I should say like darker or more dense hair, or just hair that you don't really love on certain parts of your body, that's where we then get to look at that meaning in body mapping and combine the two. Okay, so let's take the forearms, for example. Say you have extra dark, thick hair on your forearms. What that indicates is that you just feel like you need a little bit more protection or a little bit more filtering for you to lift yourself up. So maybe you feel like you need to protect yourself as you lift yourself up, or you don't really want people to see your process of lifting yourself up. So it is just hiding it a little bit. Does that make sense? Or say, I'm just going with whatever is coming to my mind. Say you have some hair like on your back, and this goes for men and women. Obviously, again, we've got health, hormones, and heredity. So men tend to have more hair all over their body. But if you have more hair on your back, whether you're male or female, again, that just indicates that maybe you feel like you need a little bit more protection from your past or from specific things in your past, depending on where it is on your back, which I'm like, oh, I have not done that episode yet, but it's coming up in a couple of weeks. So get excited because our back and our spine and all of that is fascinating. And there's a lot of information there. So be excited for that one to come. Okay. Like I said, we have hair all over our body and it's different colors, textures, the density is different, whether it's on more of our private sexual parts or on our legs or on our face. It's more like the baby hair, right? But there is hair all over our body, and it really is meant to filter and protect. Because even when we think about your nose, we have hair inside our nose, and that is to help keep out, allergens and, anything that's in the air. It filters what is going to the inside of our body. Our eyelashes literally catches things before it goes into a sensitive part of our body. So it protects us. Our hair literally protects us. Can we just give a little bit of gratitude for like our eyelashes and even like our eyebrows? Like it's another defense too, to protect our very tender, very vulnerable part of our body, right? So even if you're like, I have hair in certain places that I don't love, see if you can change it a little bit to just be like, thank you for protecting me. And maybe you don't know what it's protecting you from, and you don't necessarily need to know, but just maybe see if you can have that little bit of a shift of just saying, thank you for protecting me. I don't really know why my body feels the need to be protected there, but thank you. Okay. Because with our eyes, it's a little more obvious why our eyes need some protection, right? Other parts, sometimes we're like, wait, what? Okay. So I want to talk about hair growth. So our hair is meant to grow about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch a month. So that's about 6 inches in length a year. And this is kind of an average. Okay. So whenever I go to get my hair cut, my stylist, she's so cute. She's like, your hair grows so fast. I'm like, girl, I know. Like, I mean, I'm one that would really like to like stretch out my haircuts. And I tried that for a lot of years. But finally I was like, no, I have to come at least every 2 months. Okay. And I don't have my short pixie cut anymore. I have like just like under my ears, above my shoulders, right? But my hair grows so fast. So we just know that. And sometimes I'm like, I really should go every 6 weeks. Like it just really grows fast, right? And so it's very interesting because if your hair grows, quote unquote, faster than average, this means that you deal with change quickly and you want progression and change often. And again, I'm like, it fits me. I mean, those of you that know me, I'm like, yep, let's move, let's make things happen, let's get things going. I've got places to go, people to see. Like, there's so much that I want to do in this life, right? And so I'm like, it makes sense that my hair grows really fast and actually has started growing faster the last couple of years. Okay, so if your hair grows, quote unquote, slower than normal or than average, this is more of just like, don't rush me. Like, I need some time to process and I'm going to deal with things in my own time. And that is beautiful too. Okay. I heard one of you ask the question, well, what if you want your hair to grow faster? Okay. Work on embracing change. Okay. I know that sounds kind of weird, but if you're like, no, I want my hair to grow faster, great. Then get really good with accepting and dealing with change and receiving change as a surprise, not a shock. Okay, I wasn't planning to go here, but it's really important because a lot of times, like, the reason we don't love change is because we feel like we have no control. We didn't see it coming. Sometimes we feel like it's another shoe dropping. And so it's like this shock of like, what do I do? How do I respond? What do I do? Right? Like, and we feel like we lose all control. And so it's actually one of the things that I work with a lot with my clients. And one of the things that the message that I am meant to share is how to process the shock and re-regulate as you go through change. Okay. And so one of the key things is shock is like a very intense word. And so that's why I really like to shift it to surprise if possible. And sometimes you're like, no, it was just a shock. Oh, it can be a surprise, but it was not a good surprise. Okay, totally get there. My friends, I get it. Okay. With that being said, invite positive surprise into your life. Okay. Like if you have been on one of my retreats, you know that every day in the journaling, I invite you to write what you would love for that day. And you just get to list whatever you would love. And I set the intention to just see how many good, unexpected, fun surprises we can receive throughout the day. And my friends, there are so many cool things that happen on my retreats that I'm like, there's no way I could have planned that. Like, there's no way. But that was really awesome, right? And so this is where I invite you to invite more positive change, quicker positive change in your life, because it helps you then learn to deal with change quickly and to see change as either neutral or something that can be easily regulated and or positive. Okay? Now, that does not negate the hard things in life, and I'm not meaning, and that's not my intention, because there are hard things and there are shocks that are really difficult. And when we can learn to deal with all types of changes with more regulation in our nervous system, then whether it's a quote unquote positive or negative shock or surprise, we will deal with it better. Okay, that was a really awesome long squirrel for hair growth. You're welcome. Okay, but that actually leads us right into that our hair is actually part of our nervous system. Okay, so, and this is kind of twofold. Okay, so the first thing is that the more coarse your hair is, and I don't want to get into a lot of the details about like fine, medium, or coarse hair, but basically it's like the individual strands. Okay, don't think about how dense and thick your hair is. I want you to think about the individual strand. Okay, so if you have more of like a fine strand, it's kind of a little bit more of like baby type hair, right? Your nervous system really doesn't like a lot. Like it struggles to deal with a lot of intensity in the nervous system. The more coarse your hair is, the more you can deal with in a rough situation. Your nervous system can handle a little bit more. Now, that doesn't mean that you want to handle more, and just because you have more of the fine hair doesn't mean that you won't deal with things, but it's an indicator of where your nervous system can handle. It's your window of tolerance, okay? So a window of tolerance is basically what are you comfortable dealing with, and is your window of tolerance open for a lot of pain or a lot of joy, or it's just not open at all? And that is a whole nother aspect that I'm not going to go deep in right here because I don't want us to get fully off track. But our hair can give us information about our window of tolerance, okay? And it's actually really beautiful information. Okay, the second part of our hair being part of our nervous system is that it is actually, and this is one of my favorites, and I love it, is that it is actually dead and alive at the same time. Okay, so think about this. At the root, on your body, your hair is alive, okay? It is growing. Once it is past the root and it is outside your body, your hair is technically dead. Okay, so you literally have something on your body that is both dead and alive. Cool, right? So it makes sense that a lot of times when we have, people be like, oh my goodness, that just gave me goosebumps, or, I just got the chills, and our hair literally changes, like it stands on end. Okay, this is going to sound weird, but bear with me because it's real. But our hair is literally like coming alive. It is literally connecting to the living and the dead. So I very much believe in angels and help from the other side and beings that we can't physically see but are here to help us. And so a lot of times when we feel these sensations of our hair rising or our goosebumps, it's an indicator that we have angels with us, or sometimes they're not the most positive spirits, but that is, again, whole nother side note. So we can chat more about it later. But does that make sense? Because we literally have something living and alive, it helps us connect with the other side. Cool, right? So when you learn to read the information of your body, the information of your hair and how it's responding, you actually will have a greater connection with your higher power, with God, with the other side, with your angels. Okay? So our hair is really cool. And here's one thing that I absolutely love to look at on people. Okay, so for those of you that have seen the movie Little Rascals, you know Alfalfa, and he has that cowlick at the back of his hair. Okay, so there's a phrase, the higher the hair, the closer to God. Okay, well, people that have cowlicks, especially right there on their head, and we tend to be able to see this more with men because they tend to have shorter hair, right? But it's a sign that they're able to understand and connect with their higher power easier. Isn't that kind of cool? So I actually, I have a friend, and I had known information about her husband, just because we were friends for a while, but I hadn't like met him in person. And when I met him in person, it was the very first thing that I noticed that he had like an alfalfa cowlick. And so later, I was like, has he always had that? And she's like, oh yeah, it drives him crazy. Like he's always trying to get it down. I was like, well, are you open to information about that? Because it's actually kind of cool. And she's like, well, yeah, I love body mapping. Tell me about it. And so I was like, well, it actually means that he has actually a really pretty easy connection to God. Like it's like his antenna directly to the heavens. And it was just like, well, that makes so much sense. And like, as we talked about it, like he really does have a cool connection with God. And it's just something that he is starting to figure out. But I'm like, oh, so beautiful. His body has been showing him his whole life. No, you're meant to be connected to God. You actually have a very easy and direct access. So embrace it. And now, just because you don't have that doesn't mean you can't have an easy and direct connection with God. But some people, they need a little bit more of a reminder or of an indicator. And so that's where we get to be really neutral about how we view others and how we view ourselves, because it's not good or bad that someone else has it and someone else doesn't have it. Okay. Couple of other things that I just wanted to kind of go over. So with hair color, now, as I said before, there's a lot of hair dyeing, there's a lot of different things. So we always go off of what our natural hair color is. Now, when you think of like blonde hair, brown hair, black hair, red hair, okay, this is where we're going from. We're just talking about the shade. So the lighter the hair within their color. So they have brown hair. If it's a lighter brown, they tend to be more lighthearted and free and playful. The darker the hair, so again, going with brown, so if they have like a dark brown, the more deep, like this is not coming out, the deeper thinker they are, the deeper of a thinker they are. Okay. Anyway, they tend to think more deeply. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say, you guys. Okay. So if we go with like red hair, so if they have red, but it's a little bit on the lighter side, they tend to be a little more lighthearted, playful, and not quote unquote think as deeply. If they have a darker red hair, they tend to want to dig deeper, think more deeply, and go deeper. Okay. So again, take what shade their hair is, and then within that shade, you're going to go whether it's lighter or darker. Okay. Cool, right? So it's very interesting because for me, I've always had blonde hair, but as I have gotten older, and especially the last few years, my hair has gotten really dark, and it's been really fun for me to ask people what color they think my hair is, because I get all sorts of colors, which is really fun. Some people are like, oh, your hair's red. Oh, it's brown. Oh, it's a dark blonde. And I'm like, oh, interesting. What I will say is that it is definitely darker than it used to be. And I'm like, okay, well, I have been in a period of my life where I have definitely been more in my deep thinking and deeper processing and all these different things, right? And so it makes sense that my hair is darker at this point, right? So notice your hair. What's your natural hair color? Whether you like your natural hair color or not, I'm curious to see what it is and for you to notice that. And to be like, oh, does that fit or does that not? Oh, do I dye my hair because it actually helps me step into being more lighthearted? Do I dye my hair because I'm wanting to be more of a deep thinker? Okay, see how this is kind of playing together? Because sometimes when we change or shift or adjust something about ourselves, we are desiring to experience something differently. Now, I will be doing a whole another episode on rejection versus restoration. So just know that's coming up, and this is a little bit part of it. But a lot of times we shift how we appear and look to help us experience something differently. Okay, so I could go on, but then we'd be here for another 20 minutes. And I do like keeping these pretty short and succinct and to the point. It's how I really love to communicate. And I just want to give you the information, let you go experience it. I hope you have a beautiful, fantastic week, and I will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening. Make sure to check back each week for the newest content about your body and your wealth. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends and give it a 5-star review. Make sure to visit healinghopewithjamie.com for new offers, retreats, and ways to embody your wealthy life.